Okay, welcome back for part 3 of the Pivot Table How Do I series for the Digital Workshop Center. In this example, I'm looking at a very similar example to what we had in the previous exercises. And I've got my product name labeling the rows, and I've got my sum of the extended price as my values. And I decide that I want to see more than just the sum of the extended price. I want to actually change what kind of summary calculation I'm able to look at per product. Well, for any field, if I'm looking at the Options tab and I click on that field here, I can come to the field settings and I can actually change the way that this field is summarized. So let's say I want to look at it by the average, and when I do that, that's a nice easy pivot, very simple. And there's actually a shortcut to that, which is come right here to that summarize values by, and I can just jump between the different common aggregate functions. So if I go back to sum, that's a really easy pivot there. And notice how the label is changing accordingly. But what if I want to go ahead and add both of those at the same time? Again, a nice advantage of the pivot table is this unlimited flexibility for data analysis. Well, I can't check the box of extended price a second time, but what I can do is drag and drop this right down to this value section, and now I have two versions. And notice how it automatically numbers those versions of the sum of extended price. And on the first one, I'll leave as sum. I'll click on the second one, and I'll use my little shortcut I just showed you to change that to average. Very easy. I can even change the name of these by clicking on the labels and just going ahead and typing in a nice abbreviated label and changing the column widths accordingly. And what we looked at in previous examples was the field settings is very easy to change the number format here. So I might just go to a currency, and for an average scenario, a lot of times we just drop the decimal places, but maybe for the sum we go ahead and change the number format to keep the decimal places, something like that. So I can do this as many times as I want. If I wanted to add a third time here and change this to be a count, that's the number of times that extended price has been counted. Or I could change it to be the max price, or I could change it to be the min price. And for any one of these, again, I could just go ahead and adjust my label, and I've got a really cool way to look at this. So the other thing that often comes up is, how do I use this fourth box, which is a report filter? The report filter is actually going to filter the data before it comes into the rest of the pivot table report. So in the last exercise, we looked at pivot table filters, and we can do that on each product. So for example, I could go to the product names, and let's say I only need to see a couple of products here, so I'll just choose the first 4. And those are the only products that I need to know for this particular report. But what if I wanted to add country to the equation here, but I only wanted to look at it by the United States? Well, if I add country here, that puts all my countries grouped underneath the products. But if I drag country up and out of this into the report filter, notice how it kind of sits above the regular report. And now I can choose one country at a time here. And this is USA's filtered products for the sum, the average, and the min. The last note about report filters is you can use multiple items. I have to check select multiple items. Let's say I needed the United States and the UK. I could very easily do that. But notice how this particular filter screen is much more minimal than our normal filter and sort screen. So you do have a little bit of a disadvantage there. You don't get all of the normal filter options. And the other limitation is when I click OK, notice how it just says multiple items right here. Well, that's not real helpful if I'm trying to label this properly and understand what this is for. But what I would often do is maybe just add an extra piece right here that just tells me what that is. So there is a little bit of a manual element to that, but if you want to use the report filters properly, that's probably the best way to do so. So that's the exercise for having multiple summary calculations and report filters. Come back for the next Pivot Table How Do I series for the Digital Workshop Center. Thank you.